Well, for more on mining around the world, I spoke with mining expert David Mcateer. I asked him how crucial mining precious metals is to developing countries.
Well, I think it's a significant and important part of the economy in a number of developing nations where gold is found. It has been very important, obviously, to countries like the United States and Canada and South Africa. But as gold is an extractive industry, there'll be declining deposits to be discovered in those countries, and new deposits will be discovered in other countries where there has not been a heavy practice of mining. And we're seeing now in Indonesia, in Brazil, in some of the other South American countries, as well as some of the other Asian countries, an increase in the prospecting for, an increase in the surveying for gold, and an increase in the developing of mines.
As you talk about some of these concerns, let's also look at the economic toll that comes from the fallout. As you mentioned, the chemicals that can also be involved in the extraction process. What sort of costs could we be looking at?
But you could be looking at enormous costs, particularly in areas of the world where mining has not been prevalent, in rather pristine environmental areas, where large numbers of people are brought in with large equipment to remove acres and acres of forest, and then go and dig the land up and process that land. And you have not just the mining itself, but then you have the process of the disposal of the process. That is, you have to dispose of the dirt or the ore body when you're done. And thirdly, you have the desire and need for water, because the processing is done and driven by water purification or water solution. So now you have to get rid of the water, and then in those instances you have the use of large bodies of impoundments, man-made dams that you store the water behind, and from time to time, as recently as in Brazil, some of those dams collapsed, sending mountains of water rushing down, killing dozens of people and destroying hundreds of homes. And that kind of problem can indeed develop with the large corporate-style mining extraction system.
Not only are there these environmental concerns, as you mentioned, there are now homes that are being affected. There are also other dangers that sometimes people don't really think about. What are some of the dangers that are linked to precious metals mining that really sometimes don't make it onto people's radars?
Well, the most obvious one, obviously, is the danger that miners have who go underground, and then particularly in the small mines, where the extraction is done helter-skelter and ad hoc, and the problems are that the mines are built, not with the science in mind and not with engineering in mind, but with whatever works. And those mines can collapse, and miners can die and suffocate in those conditions. The second is that the impact on the water systems, the impact on streams and on rivers as these chemicals are leached into them, and the impact on the communities around them. In a number of mining communities, particularly in Brazil, and to some extent in South Africa now, is very significant. That negative mining impact is very significant because they are using these heavy chemicals, cyanide, to process, and that means that processing materials get out into the community and impact the locals. And thirdly is that, as I said, the impoundment measures where large bodies of water are used and have to be stored, have to be saved, to be reused, and then sometimes those collapse and destroy neighborhoods and, in fact, kill people. So there is a fall-off, a knock-off effect in mining as a general matter.
As we look at Peru, it's one of the world's top gold producers. Now, in terms of the people who are actually importing that gold, you have Switzerland, Canada, the US, India, and the UK. So what about these countries? What sort of role should they play since they're importing so much of it? Should they play a bigger role, do you think, when it comes to how this industry is regulated?
Absolutely. I think that the two facts are, one, we know how to mine in a more responsible, environmental, and safe way. It's been done in other countries. We needn't just export our production capacity from the coal corporations or of the gold corporations, but we should export our environmental capacity as well as our safety capacity. And secondly, those countries don't have to repeat the mistakes that we've had and that South Africans have had and others have had in terms of failing to regulate and failing to extract a price for the country to allow mining to go on. Countries have for years and for centuries, decades, allowed mining to go on and not extracted a price, and then they're left high and dry at the end if they do not make certain that their environment's protected, that the environment is put back as best it can, that the miners are made safe, and that they get something out of this mining process. And I think that should change as these developed countries like Peru, like Brazil, like Indonesia come on in the mining world, and they need to step up to the plate and do something about that.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, CCTV-America.com.